Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back for another spiritual healing in Ramadan podcast with Ustadh Alyas Karmani. Today's session will be on resilient parenting and families. Ustadh, how's it going?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to everyone. Alhamdulillah. What? There's still quite a lot of Ramadan to go, but everyone's getting what I call D-mob happy. Yeah, which is basically what it means is that everyone's already getting to party mode, man. Okay, we've got a long way to go, so please, everyone, no parties, please. Yeah, okay, let's leave that to Ramadan. Yeah.
Eid, you gotta get the clothes, you gotta get your cakes ready, you gotta get your party food ready. Come on, man. Yeah, I'm with
People,
you.
What cakes are we gonna bake? All this kind of, and look, I was just writing my khutbah for Friday, yeah, and just a bit of a heads up, Ijaz, this Ramadan has been a bit what I call bittersweet, yeah, because obviously Ramadan is always wonderful and amazing for us, yeah. It's a wonderful time of the year, but really it's bittersweet because every day we're just seeing genocide and we're seeing mass slaughter. We live, and the reality is this, yeah, that the government of our country is complicit in war crimes, yeah, and this is it. And so I was just writing out, we get safety and security, and they get genocide and annihilation. We have warm homes and beds; they have total destruction and chaos. We have food at iftar and suhoor, and they barely get. They're eating grass and lemons, yeah. We waste our food, yeah, and yet they are having collective starvation. We are there in our masajid praying safely, and they're praying in rubble. Our children are safe and secure. Our children in Gaza are traumatized, are orphaned. We go to our work, they have no work. We have our businesses, their businesses are destroyed. We are there doing our studies, then they don't have any opportunities. Our homes are safe zones, and their homes are kill zones. We are driving in our cars nice and easily, and they are having rockets fired upon their cars, yeah. We go to the supermarket and we fill up our trolleys, yeah, and they barely have enough provisions. We go to the restaurant afterwards for desserts, and yet our brothers and sisters and our children are being starved. We will look forward to our Eid prayer, and their Eid prayer will be in rubble. And we're traveling freely and enjoying the security, visiting our families. And what we have in Gaza is whole families being annihilated. So it's bittersweet. It's a real bittersweet Ramadan. But the point is this, that when you have such a challenging experience as we're seeing, it triggers emotions. And this is the whole point. What it should do is trigger us to be better. That's it. And give more gratitude, to have more shukr of Allah. It should trigger in us the need for us to wake up really and actually recognize that we ourselves have to go through our own change process. It's no point. The only way we benefit humanity and our children and our brothers and our sisters and our community in Gaza, the only way we benefit is by us rectifying ourselves and those around us. That's the only way we can do it. Otherwise, it's just empty words sometimes,
Yeah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the suffering of our brothers and sisters in Gaza and all around the world. I mean, yes, and we have seen true resilience from the people of Gaza this Ramadan. It literally in the rubble of the masjid, and I've also seen them make iftar with what little I have, and subhanallah. So really,
if you truly want to see an indication of resilience, this is it. And this is significant in many ways because the Prophet ﷺ himself, he said, Allahumma barik lana fi madinatina. May Allah send barakah upon our Medina, yeah? And this is referring to obviously Madinat al-Manawwara of the Prophet ﷺ. But he also said within it, Allahumma barik lana fi shamina. And he referred to Balad al-Sham and Al-Quds and Jerusalem and Gaza and the lands that are there. So this is a land of barakah. And there is a resilience in the people of Sham and of Al-Quds. There is a resilience in them, really. And this is, and likewise, he also said, Allahumma barik lana fi Yamina. He also made dua for the people of Yemen as well. Okay, alhamdulillah. People who are tough, resilient, and disciplined and focused and understand what is their purpose and get on with it. So sometimes I always say to people, and I said this right at the beginning of the whole, onslaught. I said that I don't worry so much about the people of Gaza. I worry about ourselves, and our brothers and sisters in Gaza are actually free, and we are the ones in the prison. Actually, they are told, we are told Gaza is an open air prison, but I see the freest people in the world in this open air prison, and I see us here living in so-called freedom, but in shackles and in tyranny and in prisons, in the prisons of our own mind. And as the great poet once said, okay, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Yeah, we are in a state of mental slavery. And when we talk about the healing process and spiritual healing in Ramadan, essentially the core of it is freeing your own mental slavery. The fact that you have shackled yourself to the things that you think are alleviating your pain, or giving you presence, or giving you purpose, or giving you significance or importance or whatever. And these are futile things. And when you emancipate yourself from them, when you truly liberate yourself from the shackles of this dunya, there's a hadith in Mishkat al-Masabi. It goes a bit like this as well, yeah. But it's very eloquent in the English, but whether it's sahih or not is another issue, yeah. And it goes, whoever renounces pleasure in worldly things. So once we really free ourselves from this world, okay, Allah causes light to come into their chest, into their breast, makes their tongue utter in accordance with it, makes them see the imperfection of the world, the malady and the cure, and they are brought safe and sound into the abode of peace. It's beautiful, okay? Whether it's a hadith or it's a statement of one of the ulama of the past, yeah? So it goes, when you, and there actually is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when the man came to the Prophet and he said, what will cause Allah to love me and what will cause the people to love me? And he said, azhud fi dunya yuhibbukullah. When you are not interested in this world, when you have abandoned this world, and then you truly have become free from the slavery of this world, azhud, and we were talking about materialism, okay, last episode, yeah. So this is part of our journey. Azhud fi dunya yuhibbukullah. When you leave this world, Allah loves you. And when you leave what people love, then the people love you. So when people realize that you have no agenda, that you have no need for what they can give you, and alhamdulillah, by Allah's grace, if you truly believe that you are the richest person on earth and that you have no need for anything, give me, whatever you give me, it's worthless, okay, then people love you because they realize you're totally selfless. So this thing is that when you do this, go through this process of zuhud, of not being shackled to the tyranny of this world, then light comes into your breast, i.e. your heart becomes purified by this, and then lisan is that the tongue is affected, speaks the truth, the eyes see the imperfection of the world, you see the sickness and the cure, and you are in the abode of peace. So we're talking about healing. The Ramadan is essentially that we leave this world. Allah quotes zadathum imana wajlat qulubuhum. The heart, it feels this, we develop qalb salim. We purify, وَيُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فَوَادَكَ. We strengthen the heart, and as a result, the tongue is also speaking more of that, and the eyesight is corrected. You see the world, your worldview changes. You reframe the world. You see, the thing about Gaza is that this is why I don't like the term free Palestine, and I don't like the terms that people use, because I say the people are free, and we are in prison. We are in tyranny. And anyone who's saying every day, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. So slight diversion from our subject, but important nonetheless.
Yes, I think everyone's trying to get carried away with the end of Ramadan, but that was a really timely reminder. Jazakallahu khairan. We've got 2 our viewers right now. If you've got any questions or comments on resilient parenting and families, please put them in the chat, and I'll put them up towards the end. Ustad, I'm going to leave you to it.
Inshallah, I'll go all the way till 6 o'clock, inshallah. Obviously, so brothers and sisters, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah, a'udhu billahi min ash-shaytanir rajim, inna Allaha ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'idhukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. So today our subject is related to the issue of the family. And obviously we're talking about spiritual healing in Islam. Now, for us, the family should be a source of emotional strength. It should be a source of our resilience. It should be a source of our support. It should be something which provides comfort, buffering. for parents, the parental role is to nurture children, to bring them up with the utmost well-being holistically, mind, body, and soul, to prevent them from any harms. And look, as all fathers and all mothers out there and parents out there, our children are everything to us, and we say this, but in real terms, that sometimes doesn't just transpire. What we see in Gaza at the moment, children being deeply traumatized, is completely devastating for us to see this, to our hearts, to our, I don't know how anyone can see some of the things that we are seeing at the moment and just not realize what is going on, what is happening to humanity here. Children being orphaned en masse in their thousands, and the scars, the emotional scars that children. We want to insulate children. We want to save them from all of these things. So the family is a powerful support mechanism that facilitates our healing and our safeguarding and our protection from all forms of harm, the physical harm, spiritual harm, and also emotional and psychological harms that harm the mental health of individuals. So that's what it is. The family is a protective factor. Parenting is there to provide the nurturing and the safeguarding, and again, the protective factors there, which ensure that children, generations one after the other, are improving, are growing, are in a state of growth. The dua that we see in the Quran, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Oh Allah, make our wives and our children pleasing to our eyes, قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ, which means that our eyes are given comfort through our children, so and وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, and raise them to be muttaqeen and salihin and leaders of the righteous. So we are here to play a safeguarding role. قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. Save yourself and your family from the destruction of the akhirah, of an-nar. And كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Everyone is in charge to fulfill that which is you're in charge. And you start الرجل راع على أهل البيت. He's the one. الرجل is the man, is in charge of his whole household, and the wife, his wife, is in charge of the household of her husband, etc., etc. So great responsibility to protect, to safeguard, to nurture, to guide, to educate, to inspire, to motivate, to demonstrate, and show our positive behaviors. But just in the same way the family is a protective factor, it can also become a factor which harms individuals, because unfortunately, when it comes to trauma, mental health difficulties and emotional difficulties that children experience and then manifest in their teenage years and then into adulthood, really in my 35 years of work, the vast majority of them are intra-family related, as things which are as a result of the family. That's because the family are there to nurture and safeguard, but also they are constructing the personality, the disposition, and the mindset of an individual as well. And if that nurturing quality, the socialization process, the development of the child is not taking place appropriately, then this in itself. And if a child is brought up in an environment of dysfunction, of chaos, of trauma, where the caregivers themselves are individuals who are not fit to be caregivers. Let's be absolutely honest, they're not fit to be caregivers. And one of the things I always say to a father, someone who's going to be, a new father, is that, have you been through a process of robust education, personal development about what it means to be a father? Do you have anxieties and fears? Do you know how to nurture a child and bring up a child and bring this human being into this world and nurture them into adulthood? Do you know how to do this? Do you know the skills that are required in the role? And do you know what the role of a father is in particular? And you'll find that a lot of them will think, no, really, I've gone to university maybe to study my vocation, my career, develop myself intellectually. I've done that. If I haven't gone to university, I've done all kinds of other professional development or career development or education and learning. What I haven't done in any way near the same way is actually learn what it means to be a parent and to learn to be a father, and not to transfer negative qualities and not to cause harm to the child. And no parent wants to do that, but sometimes consciously or unconsciously, inadvertently, unwittingly you are transferring sometimes negative qualities into the child, and that's constructing what the child is and the disposition of the child. And I'll give you one example. Sometimes we have certain parents who, they are what we call helicopter parents, and they do this out of a real concern for the child, that they will micromanage any deal. And helicopters, they're always hovering over you. And this actually creates greater anxiety in kids because they feel insecure, and every moment of their life is being micromanaged. And as a result of micromanagement and constantly being there as a presence, a child actually doesn't build self-esteem. What it does is that it reduces self-esteem. And if you move that to what we call the authoritative style of parenting, authoritative means what? That you exemplify as a parent your values, your behaviors. You exemplify it in consistent action and behavior, and children model your behavior, because a child, as we've said, they are modeling behavior. They don't do what you say. They model themselves on what you do. So authoritarian parents say to their children, don't lie. If you lie, you will be punished. Don't lie. And then children lie. And then they think, why are children lying? Why are children not telling the truth? Is because they're modeling behavior, and they're modeling the fact that you say don't lie, but you lie. You say inshallah, but that doesn't mean that anything's going to happen. You break your promises. You say one thing and you do another. You say don't do this and you do it yourself. So what is a child doing? It's learning lying means that I can model all this other behavior. Authoritative is that you don't ever tell your children don't lie. You behave in an authentic way. Children model that behavior, and as a result of that, you are inculcating values deeply and embedding that through them wanting to be like you rather than you having to tell them. And and then as a result of this, what happens is that children, okay, and this is a difference between authoritarian approach, which requires punishment, punitive measures when children are, and authoritative, where there is disciplining. Discipline means the child is a disciple and is learning from you by modeling your behavior and communication. Now, if you could put the presentation up, please, Ajaz. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the whole issue here of these programs that we're doing, and today I'm going to give you a taster of two programs that we have at Resilience Foundation. One is the Resilient Dads program. This is such an important program. I cannot stress enough how important Resilient Dads is as a program, if you want information on it there. And then also we have our Parenting Muslim Teens program. So we have our Resilient Dads program. Mums can come to it as well, but the Resilient Dads is 0 to 4 parenting. And then we have teenagers. We have our teen program, which is 11 to 13 program, which is also really important, because now this is the powerful thing. If we do the powerful positive parenting 0 to 4, then guess what? You minimize issues from 11 to 13. And if you don't get it right at 0 to 4, you're having to do remedial actions at 11 to 13. So these are just all parts of the programs that we have. So coming back onto what I'm saying, family is one of the most powerful social, emotional, and human influences in our lives that construct who we are. We are constructed out of childhood experiences. And these childhood experiences have lifelong impacts on our whole life. And we reap what we sow. The experiences in childhood manifest later on, positively and negatively. And so therefore, when it comes to extremism or gangs or whatever, when a child ends up in a gang at the age of 13, 14, smoking weed, why do you think that happens? It comes down to what? It comes down to the constructs in early childhood years. And what's happened is, that a child has a need and becomes attached to the gang. It's called peer attachment. And it becomes detached from parents and attached. And the peer group becomes everything for them. Total loyalty. In fact, they call it unconditional positive regard, which means that they are completely unconditionally attached to this, and they're detached from parents. Why? Because they're providing what we call a substitute family. And I'm going to come on to it. So the future of every society and our community depends on the healthy development of the next generation. And that's why Allah says, ذُرِّيَّةً بَعْدُهَا مِنْ بَعْدٍ, one generation after the other being nurtured and developed. And what all of the research shows is that healthy development will become derailed if children experience an activated stress response, which impacts on the neurological programming of the brain, and then has the physical manifestation of stress in the body. And then such toxic stress damages the learning behavior and of children, which has a lifelong impact. And that's why we find them manifesting. When I look at the chaos and toxic stress that children are going through in troubled lives and families, dysfunctional environments where there's abuse and neglect, where there may be domestic violence, where there's a whole range of adverse impacts, or absent parenting or neglectful parenting. Now, of course, within our family structures, the Muslim family structure is more under strain than ever before. And that's why we're finding that as a result of that, greater levels of adverse childhood experiences and trauma at this level, which is not being addressed. And it becomes compounded. And this has the long-term negative impact on physical, mental, social problems, spirituality, everything. When I'm dealing with a person who isn't following Islam in teenage years and on, you'll see the trace goes back, the origins of that go back much earlier on, in terms of the dysfunctional environment in which they have been. So one of the most powerful ways that we work towards addressing challenging family situations, we call it systemic family therapy, and we call it family work. Because remember, one of the most important things we've got to do is that don't deal with symptoms. If we are medicating symptoms, we're not dealing with the root causes. So a kid ends up, whether it's online addiction, whether it's sexting, whether it's gangs and weed, whether it's joining an extremist group, whether it's disengagement, whether it's underachievement and development, whatever it goes, or antisocial behavior, atheism, Allah forbid, all these things, what manifests has a root cause. And if we don't address the root, then what we do is that we just kind of almost just putting a quick fix onto a situation. Working through family work, doing systemic family work, and this is something which we do not do enough of in our community, even though it is something which is prescribed within the Quran and the Sunnah and from an Islamic perspective. Working with root causes and complex causation within the whole family in a holistic way, understanding the links with faith, iman, culture, race, power, intergenerational issues, gender dynamics. There's so many things that are going on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, in the Quran, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامَ. Have taqwa of Allah and maintain the ties of your family. It's called Sillat Raham, the ties of the womb. And Sillat Raham, as we know, what it means is that we have to maintain our family ties, be they Muslim or non-Muslim, by the way, here. And throughout the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, obviously, goodness towards parents, but also the mercy towards children and all of these kind of things. So it's about maintaining, فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ, okay, maintaining, through islah, through doing what we call mediation and restoration and conflict resolution and reconciliation work. We, and the act of reconciling people and the act of reconciling family members is a very powerful act of ibadah. It's an act of worship, because you're bringing people and you're joining hearts together. Now, if we identify that many of the causes of dysfunction later on start within the family unit, and it start within, as I said, some of these challenging issues around trauma and abuse and neglect and adversity there, including domestic violence and emotional abuse. If these are the issues happening there, then one of the powerful ways we can overcome that is through a process of peace and reconciliation. And again, look, when the Prophet ﷺ came back to Mecca, he forgave everybody, and this is the first example in history of what we call a peace and reconciliation process. So the concept of peace and reconciliation is very important here. How does systemic family work? How does systemic family therapy work? We bring all the family members together, and we consult beforehand to find out what the issues are, what the conflicts are, what the tensions are, what some of the issues are. And we come together in the spirit of forgiveness and reconciliation. And what we do is we have dialogue. Children speak and they express, these are the issues that have affected us, and this is how it has affected us. And elders speak, and parents speak, and all those who are part of the issue, speak. And then we accept each other's issues. We accept maybe the grievances or the legitimate grievances that people have. And we make amends to each other openly, and we forgive each other openly. And then we make a resolution to not repeat this behavior going further. So this is the powerful family therapy approach. And it's so important. And I think it's so important in nearly all of our families. And in fact, this should be happening. And the role of an imam is essentially that, to do this kind of istilah, reconciliation and rectification work across families, whether it be with husband and wife or with the whole family unit, children and parents and grandparents. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen in our community. And it doesn't happen for a number of reasons. And the main reason is that people don't want to talk about their problems. They want to bury everything under the carpet. And you keep on burying stuff under the carpet, and the carpet is basically essentially 20 foot in the air. You don't want to address issues. And therefore, people suffer in silence. Secondly, you don't want your issues to be brought to the attention of a third party. Again, issues around shame and what we call besti or izzah, honor. And people think, oh, we're ashamed to talk about stuff. When you have a family member who self-harms and has got suicidal thoughts, was it really worth you saying, oh, we want to maintain our so-called respect, that we allowed someone to go through so much distress that it could have been prevented? So we don't want to, we're in denial. There are issues. We don't want to talk about stuff. We don't want to bring dishonor upon ourselves. We deny that people are going through difficulties. We're in a denial mode. And then there's the power dynamics. Elders say, well, why should we listen to children? You should be listening to us. No, this is not the way of the Prophet ﷺ. He listened to children. And he never, in any way denied the feelings or the difficulties. As I said, the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ was such that you heard a child crying, he would shorten prayer, But there's also this thing that, no, authoritarian, our way or the highway, no, listen to us, no, you just have to fall into line, and that's it. And this creates so much conflict and tension, obviously. So we don't do this. We don't want to sit down and talk about our problems with a therapist, with someone qualified who knows our cultural dynamics. You see, one of the things about why we call it culturally competent is that, you've got to know the family dynamics, you've got to know the cultural dynamics, and they vary, whether it's Somalia families or Kurdish families or Bengali families or Pakistani families. Each family has its own cultural dynamics, and it's important to know those things in order to negotiate it. And also the language issues and generational issues. So it's a skilled area of work. And we don't have enough family therapists, but we need more and more and more family therapy. So that way we address issues right from the beginning. So it comes back onto it. It's 0 to 4 years, as I've said. These are the years where, if we have abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. So let me give you an example. If you have a parent who has mental health problems, a parent who has domestic violence and emotional abuse issues, a parent who has substance misuse issues, a parent who's been out of prison and has been involved in criminal behavior, and a parent, like I said, who themselves have had trauma and have been affected by trauma. These are really challenging issues. And then within the family environment, you think that isn't going to have an impact unless they themselves have been through their growth and healing and trauma work to overcome. If they haven't, they're going to be transferring it. Then there's neglect. And we don't neglect our kids physically, because we are very, very good at providing for the physical needs of children, physiological needs of food, clothing, and shelter. But on the emotional side, I'm going to come on to it. One of the emotional things that destroy the self-esteem of our children and their mental health is comparing to others. We are always comparing our children. Why aren't you like this? And why aren't you like that? And then we put unreasonable expectations. You have to become a doctor. You have to become an engineer. And children are then seen as failures if they don't achieve the dreams of parents. So the emotional abuse part of it is very, very significant. But let's be absolutely honest. We know in all communities there is domestic violence, and unfortunately there are patterns of domestic violence and emotional abuse, and sometimes even worse than that. And of course, look, I don't like to bring this up in Ramadan. We do unfortunately have sexual abuse within our community, and I have many, many clients over the years who are survivors of sexual abuse, and the biggest thing that they go through is exactly this: their failure to be able to talk about it, and people accept it. And when it happens within the family unit, everyone just covers these things up. And then if you are to go public on it, then you are become ostracized and a pariah within your own community. Just yesterday, I had a client talking about his childhood experience. He's now an adult and he's been affected by all his life, that he was abused by an extended family member. So unfortunately, these things happen. We have to talk about it. And so every child is born upon fitra, and as we know, the parents are the ones who are shaping it, and each of you, is responsible. And ar-rajulu ra'in ala al-bayt wa huwa mas'ulun an ra'iyati, and the man is in charge of the family. And this is really important because I'm going to talk about fathers in particular here. So, is this bad parenting? Is it bad parenting? Okay. Yes, I'm afraid it is. And I know no one wants to say that, but yes, because as I've told you, based on those two hadith, the parents are constructing the childhood in all aspects, positively or negatively. It's not school. I know school is a powerful agency, but the impact of the socializing and the impact of school in constructing the person's whole worldview and disposition is only as strong, as the parenting. If the parenting is weak, then it becomes strong. So if the parenting is powerful and strong and in positively constructing the child's whole construct and worldview and disposition and emotional well-being, guess what? Then all the other agencies which are bombarding children and social media, peers, and school and society are minimized because the overwhelming construct is from parenting. Poor transition from childhood to adulthood. We're not very good with puberty. We do not do puberty very well in our community. Let's be honest. And this is where we find teenage fractures, rebellion, family disconnect, ineffective parenting approaches affect us. So, and this is where children start to now disconnect and start having what I call double life syndrome, which is a unique phenomenon within our community where children lead on twin lines, family life, and then they have their own parallel life where they are doing whatever they're doing. We do not do puberty well. I'm so shocked. I established the Boys to Men program with Brother Humayun in Birmingham, nearly 20 years ago. We were the first to deliver it there in Birmingham. And it was all about, reality of facilitating the transition from childhood to adulthood, going through puberty and celebrating puberty and recognizing that we create a place where young people mentored through this very important transition into their life. But if you don't, then what there's guilt, there's shame, there's embarrassment, there's confusion. What's happening to me? And then parents still to this day take their children out of school. We don't want their school to teach them anything. No, but then they don't teach them anything themselves, which is really a violation of the rights of a child. The child needs to know that they are turning into baligh, they are becoming adults. A female is a fully biologically formed female by the age of 13 and 14. She's fully biologically mature. Obviously emotionally and cognitively still developing. Boys fully develop in terms of their physical development by the age of 21. They have spurts at 13 and then maybe at 16, then at 18, at 20. They have different spurts, but for girls, for females, full biological development by the age of 14. And then you are dealing with a woman who's your child, and she's asserting herself and is creating teenage fractures and rebellion. And you don't know how to manage this. So when it comes to the factors which influence the development, the emotional development of people, family, taboos, not talking about stuff, trauma within the family, then obviously we disproportionately live in poor areas with lack of support, and then racism and social negative influences. There's a lot. These are the critical junctures in the lives of our children and young people where we do not manage these junctions. So the first one is 0 to 4 childhood. As I've said, really important for me to put in the development work then to minimize the problems later. In fact, the Minnesota longitudinal study, which is the longest longitudinal study that has been conducted, tracked children since the 1950s, is able to predict to an 80% accuracy the life opportunities of a child at the age of 15 from actions that take place from 0 to 4. Now you might say, That's just kind of, some social scientists. No, it's the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I just told you, every child is born upon fitrah, and parents make them into this, this, and this. You construct it. So it's not, it's a hadith. It's actually very, so we can predict at the age of 15 what will be happening to a child. Bi'idhnillah, of course, we have a predictive ability based on variables, based on what happens at 0 to 4 with the parenting. So that's a really powerful coming into this world. Then 11 to 13, puberty, can be 9 to 13 even, yeah. Very powerful transition. The education system and how we deal with it, how they go into employment, how they engage with society and everything else. Then our children going into marriage. And I always say this regarding, I have so many videos online on marriage. When it comes to choosing a marital partner in our community, we spend more time thinking about what phone we will buy than the person we're marrying. And that may seem really bizarre. When you're buying a phone, you really do a lot of due diligence. You do lots of comparatives. You want to get the latest device with all the kind of, additionalities and features. People put a lot of thought into it. And then they're getting married to someone and they just met them a couple of times and haven't done any psychometric testing. They haven't done any compatibility rating. They haven't looked at decision making. They haven't looked at communication styles. They haven't looked at, haven't done something like 16 personalities, which is Myers-Briggs type of inventory. So you haven't really done due diligence. You just, and obviously when not like the mainstream where, people obviously have relationships outside of the institution of marriage, and we don't encourage that at all. And then parenting. So all of these critical junctures, we're going through all of these critical junctures without robust knowledge, guidance, wisdom that is based on ilm al-nafiya, beneficial knowledge rooted within our Islamic guidance and principles. And so therefore we're not nurturing well-being, and we have to realize that nurturing the well-being, the holistic well-being of our children is the most important role of parenting, and what they found is that when we don't do it, then we have all these lifelong things. So the Prophet ﷺ, how was he with children? The Prophet ﷺ, despite the adversity of losing both his parents in early childhood, a trauma that would be today, really something which is immense, and being an orphan who was nurtured by his grandfather and uncle and his wet mothers, okay, the Prophet ﷺ, how was he with children? We have so many hadith that a child could grab the hand of the Prophet ﷺ and drag him all around Medina, and he would be, like I said, he would be shy to remove his hand from her, and she would take it, and he wouldn't want to remove his hand. So first, the child could just come up and grab the Prophet. And I say this as an elder. When in the masjid, I say to, especially last week when I did the khutbah and there was a lot of children in the masjid, I said, look, alhamdulillah, this is beautiful when we see children come to the masjid. You are VIPs. You are the VIPs. Because, and I say, we are your elders. And whatever you need, you come to us. And we are here to support you and, give you care and support and guidance. Because when I was growing up, the elders didn't teach us that way. The elders were very harsh and perhaps didn't say, look, we're here to be your mentors and guides and teachers, and we're here to show love and mercy. I just imagine this hadith. I imagine a girl grabbing the hand of the Prophet ﷺ, a young child, and dragging him all around Medina. And she's going around Medina and she's saying, oh, look at this. And she's saying, oh, look at that. And look at this. And the Prophet ﷺ is just entertaining her all this time. What a beautiful example about presence and dignifying the child. You want to teach child dignity? Then you behave with dignity with a child. You give child dignity and you elevate their dignity. A man came to the Prophet and said, I have 10 children and I never kiss any of them. So he was like, a bit macho, tough guy. I don't kiss my kids. Yeah, you got to learn the hard way. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't kiss your children, Prophet, whoever's not merciful to others, Allah will not be. And he ordered him to go back and kiss his kids. Yeah. Now the point here is this: there are two things I want you to realize. Your children, when they hit puberty, yeah, is a massive void, spiritual void that they have. They don't hear enough from their parents. I love you, and I'm proud of you. I love you, and I say, go and tell your children, I love you, and I'm proud of you. And if you make a mistake, go to your children and say, I am sorry. I remember I said it once to my daughter, I said, I'm sorry, you know, and then she said, okay, Dad. I said, don't you realize how big that is? Yeah. Our parents never said sorry to anything. Yeah. So if a child doesn't feel attached, and this is attachment disorder, and you don't say, I love you and I'm proud of you, they constantly have a hole and deficit that they then look to fill elsewhere. So go and kiss your kids. You know, this hadith, ya ghulam, you know, when the children of, I think it's, you know, one of the wives of the Prophet, you know, I think maybe Salama, maybe, yeah. And he was under the care of the Prophet, and he was eating from the same dish as the Prophet, and he was eating from all over the dish. And the Prophet said to him, Ya ghulam, oh my dear child, begin in the name of Allah, eat with your right hand, eat that which is in front of you. Now, what is profound about this is first sit with the child on the level of the child. Don't raise your voice, don't lower your voice, speak in a way that is clear, dignify. He didn't say, oi, oi. I know when our elders, they would probably not call us by a nice name, yeah? Okay. Oh, you donkey. That's, you know, they would call us donkeys or other things. Okay. Okay. Ya ghulam. Oh, my dear child. You want to teach child manners? Then you model manners. And he gave such clear advice. Begin in the name of Allah. Okay. Eat with your right hand, eat that which is in front of you. You know, when I stand for prayer, and likewise. And children would climb, his grandchildren would climb on the back of the Prophet ﷺ when he's in sajda. You know, and the Prophet would then just wait until they've climbed over him, and then he would get out of the sajda. Yeah. So, and then the Prophet, as you know, who said, whoever supports two girls till they reach maturity will be like this with me in paradise, i.e., join his two figures together. And then later on, he said, even one. Yeah. So the point is bringing up, don't favoring your male children over your female children. And I mentioned in my last talk, the female child that was buried alive will say, for what crime was I killed? You know, the Prophet and his companions rescued, you know, the children who were being killed in the time of Jahiliyyah. So our children have a fundamental need for belonging and connection. And there's a famous statement, if the youth aren't inducted into the village, they will burn it down to feel its warmth. So the youth need to be a part of our community, part of our masajid, part of our social fabric. Otherwise, we're putting them on the outside. They're being othered and they feel estranged from us. And that's when they create their countercultures. They disconnect. They said we need to create engagement, fundamental need for belonging and connection. Why do kids end up in all these other counterculture, counter movements, counter ideologies, counter kind of behaviors? Why? Because of being othered in their own families and seeking that belonging and attachment elsewhere. And this is what we call inner child work. The inner child has experienced, you know, the adult that, you know, is manifesting still the wounds of childhood, you know, being ignored, lack of validation, yelling, being shamed, lack of attention, anger. This goes on, you know. So attachment is so important. An attachment parent isn't holding on to your parents. And I like this statement, you only hold on to your parents, you only hold on to your children by not holding on to your children. The way you hold on to your children is that you model the behavior, you are an example for them, and then you let them fly. That's how you hold on to them. Because if you have truly modeled the behavior that you want and they have inculcated that behavior, then they will always be attached to you. Attachment is so important as a human. Children come into this world and they immediately attach. They're programmed to attach with the caregiver. And that's the caregiver, that's a male and the female. And it should be both. This whole idea, and there is what I call something called defatherization. Fathers are being airbrushed out of societies and their role of parenting. Somehow it's whenever I say I'm running a parenting program, that's why I call my parenting program Resilient Dads. I call it Resilient Dads. I call it a dad's parenting program. Because I want dads to realize, you know, as men, one of the most, if not the most important thing that I do as a man is parent children who will be the ones who will wash my body when I leave this world, who will close my eyes when my soul leaves, do my ghusl, wrap me in my kafan, carry me to my janaza, and put me in the ground. So this is the most important thing, that, we are there to make sure that, this is the most important thing that I do. And what we have, unfortunately, is that when the attachment isn't there, and this is a whole lecture, but this is a taster of that. Too many of our children have what I call avoidant or ambivalent or disorganized attachment. Very few I see having secure attachment. And really, mostly it's what I call disorganized attachment, which is that, the child is depressed, passive, angry, non-responsive, because they've never had the attachment from mum and dad. Okay, and they feel frightened, or it's avoidant. The child is not very emotionally engaged. They feel that their needs are not met, and that's why they're obsessive or become addictive to other things to fulfill that need. Or it's ambivalent. It was there sometimes, it was not there other times. A securely attached child will always be there with you, will be your companions. There's a hadith, it's not sahih, but it's correct. First 7 years are compassion, rahmah. 7 to 14, tarbiyah. And then after 14, they are your companion, i.e., they are at your side now. They're, grown up now at 14. If your boys are probably taller than you by the age of 14 even, yeah? So, and if you've done 0 to 7 rahmah, attachment, build secure attachment, and then you've done 7 to 14, tarbiyah, education, learning and development, because the attachment is secure, then they'll always be with you post 14. If the first 7 years are not done correctly, and the child feels ambivalent, disorganized, or avoidant attachment, then you start to teach them at 7 to 14. They're not interested in the teaching. And then at 14, they become peer attached and online attached. And we start to lose our kids. So Dr. Gabba's book on holding on to your parents, brilliant book, totally recommend it. On our course, we've basically, I've been through the whole book and summarized it all for you. Okay, so if you want to come onto the course, let us know that, And what he says is, for a child to be open to being parented by an adult, he must be actively attaching to the adult, be wanting contact and closeness with him. It's called presence. If you're absent as a father, the child doesn't want to be with you. You're not there for them emotionally. The child wants to be parented by you, so you have to be there, to be present, to be. So we have parents who are absent, fathers who are absent, they're not there. We have fathers who are present physically, but absent because their mind is somewhere else. They're on their phones, they're playing this, or they're avoiding, or they're tired. Present, but absent. Then we have fathers who are present. We will wish they were absent because they're negative. Okay. And then, we just have, parents who are generally, I'm here. And I remember once saying this to one of our people on our course. He said, go home, put all your devices away. I want you just to spend 10, 15 minutes with your kids with full presence. And when they were doing that, the kids loved it. They loved it. And they said, Dad, next day, just want to spend time with Dad. Okay. And this is why attachment is so important. Anyway, so we've touched on systemic family work. So what I always say is also there's 5 powerful rules. I want you to imagine this in your home. You put a big poster up in your home and you say, from now on, we'll have no put downs. We'll have no sarcasm. We'll have no broken promises. We'll have no bullying, and we will not have any comparison to others. 5 rules. We put these 5 rules up in our house. And you live by these 5 rules. What will happen in your home if you live by these 5 rules? I can tell you what's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to be transformative. Truly, you're not putting anyone down. Okay, so people do not feel that their self-esteem is being eroded. There's no sarcasm, which makes people feel that, doubt and confusion. You're not breaking promises. You're doing what you're saying you're doing. It means you've got communication and you value people. You're not bullying them. You're not intimidating them. You're not forcing them, so they feel safe. And you're not comparing them to others. Why aren't you like this, or why aren't you like that? So again, as a result of that, they feel, I can develop myself. They feel that you're proud of them. As a result of them not comparing to others, then what you do is that you enable them to thrive themselves. So these are very, very, very powerful rules. Okay, and what I want to move on to now is, like I said, this is normally a very, very long course as well. So I want to move on to now to the final part, which is about dads. Okay, this is a taster session. This is a taster of the taster session. And look, if, for anyone who's interested in the Resilient Dads program, send us an email, and we'll let you. We'll send you a video of one of the taster sessions, and it's a 30-hour program. As far as I'm concerned, if you're a new father or a father to be, you have to be on this program. Okay, because we want to empower you to be someone who can give the long-term positive support for your children. And we call it being a dadvocate. Standing up for dads, supporting dads, developing fathering skills, prioritizing the father role, and balancing the father role. Because what's happening is this. Even within our community, we use this hadith, and I think sometimes we misuse this hadith. Who is most deserving of your obedience after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ummi, 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 wa abi. Mother, 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 and then father. And it's almost like dad's not important. It's all mother, mother, mother. And we have this mother model, which is sometimes an unhealthy mother model within our community, where mothers use a lot of control to manipulate and control children. That is not healthy either. Helicopter parenting done by mothering, not very healthy at all. Of course, there should be obedience to mother. I'm not saying anything of the sort that there shouldn't be. But what I'm saying is this: fathers are really important. And Allah says, Allah swears by the father and his children. So we got to realize dad, and by doing that, dads also get a bit of a, you could say, get out of jail. They think, oh, we're under the radar. Oh, it's all ummi, ummi, ummi. And then dads don't know. No, you got to do your job. It's a really important job. But you haven't got fathering skills because you haven't been on a course, and you haven't done any education and development and coaching and mentoring. So we need to, and then on top of that, you're not prioritizing. You let other things taking over the role. And then, yeah, I know you've got to do work, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that. So let's teach you how to balance the father role. Because why is that in 30 years, we're seeing really bad social patterns of underachievement, poverty, criminality, drugs, domestic violence, and mental health problem in our community. This is a pattern that's gone on for a whole generation, and it indicates a failure of parenting. Okay, kids involving in what I call all of these negative behaviors: gangs, mental health, violence, addiction, social exclusion, sexual abuse, violence, extremism, antisocial behavior. Kids are getting involved in all of this kind of stuff out there. As Frederick Douglass says, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And we need to make sure that children have the strongest. So fathers are essential. And this is the thing, fathers maybe come in maybe at puberty. No, you should be there fully engaged, 0 to 4 development. And because this is the time when the child develops more than any other. The defatherization, the demise of the role of the father, diminished by counter roles that males are pulled towards, and the loss of the status and kudos associated with being a father, and how society and a range of social movements are undermining fatherhood, undermining the role of the man in the family home. I'm telling you, we're not here to be tyrants or anything like that. No, but the reality is this: we have a defatherization, and there are so many kids growing up. Hey, look, I just had one case recently where a mother said, "Oh, my child is going through X, Y, and Z." I said, "Where's the dad?" The dad's there, but he's present but absent. So there you go. And how's that child being parented? On PlayStation, playing video games, and whether it's Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. When a dad is involved in early brain development, the science from Imperial College London says that it boosts their mental development more than mother. More than mother. Mothers have a powerful impact in social and emotional development, and maybe language development. Dads have a more powerful impact in cognitive development. The way that, and this is Department of Medicine, Imperial College, world's second leading institute in the world. Even as early as 3 months, father-child interactions can positively predict cognitive development almost 2 years later. So there's something probably quite meaningful for later development, and that really hasn't been shown much before. So they've shown that when the father is doing lots of early intervention, early interaction with children. Okay, and we show in our program, we coach people what that involves. Fathers have a unique effect on children's educational outcomes. Okay, and this is another study from Leeds University, which found exactly the same thing. That they found just 15 minutes of work with a child, or 10 minutes a day, made a massive difference for children's educational. 10 minutes a day of presence, putting your devices away, putting everything else away. I'm here just to sit with you, whether you're reading a book, whether you're playing a game together, whether you're kicking a football, whether you're throwing a ball at each other, whether you're just talking about the stuff that's happened every day. I want to say something now here, and I want everyone to know this. You know, I've seen the madrasa system in the UK, and children go through the madrasa system and they don't value education. And the reason is parents come, drop them at a madrasa in the UK, leave them there for 1 hour or 2 hours, then come pick them up, take them home, and they don't even ask them, what did you study today? What did you learn today? What did you do today? Child is learning right from the beginning. This isn't important. So childhood stimulation, you know, it is directly impacting what we call the prefrontal cortex, which is what we've been saying all along, is the part of the brain where our executive function is again. You know, again, we found, this is from King's College, London, we found that children interacting with sensitive, calm, and less anxious fathers during a book session at the age of 2 showed better cognitive development, including intention, problem solving, language, and social skills. This suggests that reading activities and educational references may support cognitive and learning development in these children. So, again, the evidence is clear. So we need to create what are called resilient fathers, fathers themselves who are able to fully engage in this role. You know, and unfortunately, fathers need to know how to be present and not absent. And the reality is, where did we get our tools from? We got our tools from our own experiences of our fathers, which may not be positive, or just we project our children onto our children, which may not also be good. Unless you've been through a robust development program, you are taking care of another human being. We can't expect boys to be good men if they don't see good men. And father, the role of the father, I've got to say, is, you know, one of the most powerful roles that we do. Yeah. What is the number one role of a father? The number one role of a father: to be a positive role model, being present and available with quality interaction, preventing neglect and abuse, safeguarding, buffering, caring and compassionate, selfless sacrifice, teaching by example. Number one role of a father. Tell me anything otherwise. And obviously, being a provider is also very important. But you have to balance the provider role with the positive role model work. I can tell you, I have had thousands, 1,000 men over all the years tell me, I wish I spent less time on working and I spent more time with my children. So they did not balance it. They were working. They told themselves, I'm working for them. No, you are not working for them, because they didn't want the things you were giving them. They wanted your presence, and children want to see their dad as safe, as strong, as comforting, as protecting, the hero. Dad's hero, man. Okay, teacher, wise and knowledgeable. So this is how the children want to see you. Rise to the challenge, and don't, so the fathering role: nurture, sacrifice, balance, emotional control, loving, involved, and hands-on, advisor, connector. These are the powerful roles of fathers, okay? And these are the values of the fathers as an educator: to be present, to be compassionate, and a provider. So I'll finish it. To be a role model and lead by example, empathy and loving communication, supporting the whole family, leadership and selfless attention to family needs. That's the role of a father. And that's the key role which minimizes the trauma and the adversity that children experience in early years, which will then minimize any suffering or any negative impacts later on. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all of our children. We ask Allah to elevate them, inshallah, and to truly, make our children lil muttaqina imama. Jazakallah khair for all the comments, inshallah, we're getting. All of the videos, as we know, are available online for everyone. So all the videos are there online, inshallah. And Brother Rah, of course, just give us your details, and we're happy to come and do a session for your community, inshallah. And this is, as I said, the whole program. This is a very comprehensive. Resilience Foundation has resilient parenting, resilient teens, resilient children, resilient dads, and resilient communities. So it's a comprehensive program. As I said, the Resilient Dads program is a 30-hour learning program. If you can't commit yourself to 30 hours of learning, to do what I say, Allah says in the Quran, ذُرِّيَّةً بَعْدُهَا مِن بَعْدٍ, to nurture generation one after the other, then subhanallah, really, you reap what you sow. You know, may Allah protect our children. May Allah send His help and protection upon all of our Muslim brothers and sisters everywhere. Fi kulli makan. May Allah Ta'ala relieve the suffering and hardship and difficulties of our brothers and sisters in Gaza, and also all mustad'ifin fi kulli makan. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala bless us in these final nights of Ramadan. May Allah inshallah accept from us all of our actions. I look forward to seeing you inshallah on Friday, inshallah, for what maybe I think as our 12th show, which may be our last show this Friday. I might do one on Monday if it's possible, but it's going to be our last one on Friday. Jazakallah khair to everyone. Jazakallah khair, brother Ijaz, as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.